Let's take a look at return on investment and residual income. This is problem 10-9A that you can see on your screen, though there's a little bit of glare in the screenshot. So let me read a little bit of it to you. No headquarters wants us to add that new product line, said Clem Baker, manager of Westwood Inc.'s Office Products Division. But I want to see the numbers before I make any move. Our division's return on investment, which is ROI, has led the company for 3 years, and I don't want any letdown. Westwood Inc. is a decentralized organization with 5 autonomous divisions. The divisions are evaluated on the basis of ROI, with year-end bonuses given to the divisional managers who has the highest ROIs, or who have the highest ROIs. Operating results for the company's Office Products Division for the most recent years are given below, and hopefully you can read that that's $9 million in sales, $5.4 million in variable expenses, and so forth. Now I'm going to read down to the next paragraph to the left of the mouse. The company had an overall ROI of 18% last year, considering all divisions. The Office Products Division has an opportunity to add a new product line that would require an additional investment in operating assets of $250,000. The cost and revenue characteristics of the new product line are $1 million in sales, 60% of sales is variable expenses, and $350,000 of fixed expenses. All right, now we have a number of requirements, and let me slide the screen here. First, we'll compute the Office Products Division ROI for the most recent year, and we'll also compute the ROI as it would appear if the new product line is added. Later on, we'll tackle the other requirements. Okay, so with the information we have, we've got sales. It looks like we've got net operating income. We'll need that. They talk to us about margin, turnover, and ROI. So let's get started putting that together. All right, so sales with the present business was $9 million. Okay, and I think with the new line we're talking about another million to the left of my mouse there. Right there, you see it? So we'll add, I'm just going to copy this over here. Hang on one second here. Let me slide back so it's where it should be. And then I'll change that, just so it's formatted the right way. So 10 million in total. Okay, then we need to compute the net operating income. And let's figure out how we can do that. For the present business, we know that net operating income is $1,080,000, just to the left of my mouse. I'll jot that in. But for the new line, we've got to do a little bit more work. And first, let me format all of this so it'll line up right. All right. For the new line, to come up that 50,000, what do we know? We know sales are 1 million, variable costs are 60% with 350,000 of fixed cost. Okay, so really what we could do is put together a little schedule to come up with that. And why don't I do that down below? And I'll leave myself some room because I think we're going to add some other items here. Alright, so to do that other calculation, I'm going to, I'll just indent, and I'll say on the incremental line we had $1 million of sales, right? Okay, variable expenses were given as 60% of sales, and I'll show you where that came from. That's our 60% of sales to the left of my mouse right there. Okay, so we can take 60% times the million. We come up with 600,000. All right, if we subtract the 600,000 from the million, we've got 400,000, and that represents the contribution margin, right? And then we can from there back off our fixed expenses. Okay, and our fixed expenses are given as 350,000 to the left of my mouse. So I'll jump back there, jot in the 350,000. Okay, if I format this the same way, and then do that calculation again, the subtraction, we come up with 50,000. And that 50,000, this is just a brief little schedule to get us the amount of operating income, or net operating income. And this one is from the new line. And I'll just label this as the new line. Okay, so I'm going to just indent that, or underline that and indent that there. So all of that is designed to give us that $50,000 that we know is going to happen there. And then of course I can copy that and away we go. Okay, that's our net operating income. We also need to determine the operating assets if we're going to compute return on investment. Alright, and I think they just give us that. The operating assets are, there we go, 4,500,000. And the new operating assets are 250,000 on the new business. So I think we can just jot down those numbers. 250,000. Sum this again, and I'm going to just format that because we don't need the dollar signs there. Okay, if we have sales, operating income, and operating assets, we actually can compute what we need for ROI. We could compute the margin, we could compute the turnover, and then calculate the ROI, sort of following the DuPont approach to ratios. So let's get started. Let's first indicate our margin. Now, our margin is going to be equal the net operating income divided by sales. Okay, so you can call that margin, or you can call it as income as a percentage of sales. Both of those titles will work, and we can simply multiply that across, right, and come up with the various percentages we need. Next, we need to come up with turnover, and turnover is done by taking the sales divided by operating assets. Right, so we get 2, 4, and another 2, but I want to take that to 1 decimal point, or at least maybe 2 decimal points. Okay, now once we have margin and turnover, we can simply multiply it to come up with the ROI, because ROI is equal to, if you will, the income on sales, or margin, times the number of times the sales turnover. How do I say that? The number of times that operating assets go into sales, or the number of times that operating assets get turned over during the year. Okay, and once we do that, we're able to calculate what the ROI is. So now that I've done that, I can copy that across. I get 24%, 20%, and 24%. If we take this to a percentage basis, it's 24 even, 20, and 23.8. Okay, now I want to show one other approach. I want to show that you could also calculate ROI simply by taking the net operating income, let me just abbreviate, and divide that by your assets. Okay, and I'll abbreviate this. So rather than computing margin and turnover and ROI by multiplying margin times turnover, and I'll abbreviate, you could also just do that directly, because sales actually cancels out, right? Take the net income, divide it by the operating assets. And what you'll see here is, once I format this, I get exactly the same numbers. Okay, so you could use that either approach, either determining the margin and turnover and multiplying them, or simply coming up with income divided by operating assets. Both ways will get you to ROI. Okay, and I believe that takes care of part 1. Compute the ROI for the most recent year, computing ROI as it would appear if the new product line is added. Okay, now question 2 says, if you were in Clem Baker's position, would you be inclined to accept or reject the product line? Well, let's look at that answer. Presently, he's earning 24%. The new line dilutes his percentage. So if you were Clem Baker, you would not want to be going a downward direction on return on investment. So you would be inclined to reject the new product line. Now let's take a look at number 3. Why do you suppose headquarters is anxious for the office products division to add the new product line? And I think that one's easy to understand once we look and see that the entire, or let me shoot back here. Once we read that the entire ROI of the company was 18%. So with the new product line, and I'll move over here, it increases us from an 18%, increases to 20%, so it drives up the ROI of the entire business, but yet in Clem Baker's position, he's not all that interested in going ahead with that. All right, now 4 says, suppose that the company's minimum required rate of return on operating assets is 15% and that performance is evaluated using residual income, or RI. Then we need to compute the office product's RI for the most recent year and also compute RI, or residual income, as it would appear if the new product line is added. So let's give that a try now. We'll come on down here and we'll do a calculation of residual income. All right, we've still got the present, net, and new line as our titles. All right, let's drop in operating assets again, and I'm just going to reference from above. Right, comes from there. And since this is a new analysis, we'll format it with dollar signs. Okay, now the minimum required rate of return, or just return, is equal to 15%. So I'm simply going to take the number above times 15% and calculate what that amount needs to be. Okay? Then we can compare that to the actual net operating income. And the actual net operating income is given by what we have here, including our prediction for the new product line. Okay? Now, since we've already determined the minimum, we can easily define residual income then by taking the actual operating less the minimum required. And once we do that, I'm going to draw a line down here. And because this isn't a sum, I'm going to actually add a blank line here so that it's clear that this number is used, but really we're just subtracting the minimum required from the actual net to come up with residual income. And that's how we would calculate RI for this this particular company's situation. Okay, so under these circumstances, if you were in Clem Baker's position, would you accept or reject the new product line? Okay, now if we're looking at residual income, we see that we'd be more inclined to accept the product line because adding the product line increases the total amount of RI. Okay, so this is an example that shows how RI gets you a different answer than if you were using ROI, and it shows one of the flaws in ROI, which is if you are the leader with the highest return on investment, you may be inclined to walk away from very good business that makes sense from the entire organization's point of view, but yet it doesn't make you look as favorable. If we approach this from an RI standpoint, we see in this particular situation, it would make sense for us to go ahead and take on that business because it drives up ROI by another $12,500. And that's this problem, everyone. I don't think there's any other questions. So thank you very much. There's the answers again.